Okay, so if you're a parent in this, digital world, you've probably heard the term sharenting. And it sounds totally harmless, right? You're just sharing those adorable, funny, proud moments of your kid's life online. But what if there are some hidden costs we're not really thinking about? Today, we're going to dive deep into the unseen and honestly pretty surprising consequences of posting about our kids. Right? Let's just start with a moment of total honesty here, because I think we can all relate to this. You capture that perfect, messy, absolutely hilarious moment, the cake smash, the first wobbly steps, the spaghetti that's literally everywhere, and your first instinct, boom, is to share it. It just feels natural. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it does. That impulse to share is so strong, it's almost like a reflex for most parents. But have you ever actually stopped for a second and asked yourself, why? What's really behind that urge to hit post? Let's get into it. So yeah, let's explore the psychology behind this share reflex. Because it's not just about showing off. There are some very real, very human things driving us to do it. And when you look at the reasons, they make perfect sense. That little like or comment, it's a tiny dopamine hit. It's the validation you need on a really long day. It connects you with other parents who totally get it. It's really just the modern version of shouting your joy from the rooftops. And here is where things start to get a little bit tricky. There's a really subtle but super important line we can cross. It's that moment when sharing becomes less about celebrating the kid's milestone and, well, more about our own need for that little pat on the back. The likes start to feed the habit more than the moment itself. And this, right here, perfectly illustrates that shift. We go from simply celebrating a moment to carefully curating it for an audience. From just experiencing parenthood to, in a way, performing parenthood. And that motivation can shift without us even realizing it. Which, well, that leads us right into the next big issue. This brings us to what's called the privacy paradox. See, every post, every picture, every little video clip becomes a permanent part of your child's digital tattoo. It's like a story that's being written on them before they can even hold the pen. So here's the paradox in a nutshell. We share these deeply personal moments to feel closer to our community, right? But by doing that, we're exposing those very same moments to a world that is way, way bigger than our friends and family. Once it's online, we've pretty much lost all control. And this is the cold, hard truth of it all. Even if you hit delete on a post, you can never, ever be 100% sure it's gone. Screenshots, shares, downloads, it can live on forever in corners of the internet you will never, ever see. I absolutely love this metaphor because it is just so perfectly true. The more you try to clean it up, the more tiny, sparkly pieces you find everywhere. It's frustrating and honestly an impossible task. Your child's image is no longer just yours. So get this. This is a real-life example of that loss of control. The author of our source material Googled their kid's name and found his face right next to a yogurt ad. All of a sudden, this sweet, private family photo is being used to sell something, totally without their permission and with no compensation. Wild. And this leads us to what is maybe the most important perspective in this whole conversation, the child's. We're creating a detailed, public, and permanent history for a person who has had absolutely zero say in it. What is their future self going to think of the digital past we've built for them? And this isn't just us guessing. Research is actually starting to show the real-world impact. For instance, a key study back in 2020 looked directly at this exact issue. And what they found was that kids whose parents overshared were more likely to report feeling things like anxiety, embarrassment, and this big one, a total lack of control over their own image. What we see as just a cute memory can actually feel like a huge invasion of their privacy. And that is a totally fair question, isn't it? A moment that feels so innocent to us right now could be a source of major cringe for a teenager who's just trying to figure out who they are. We're basically writing chapters of their life story for them without their permission. I know, this sounds like a funny image, but the reality is a lot less amusing. A cluttered, maybe embarrassing, or just overly personal digital footprint could have real consequences on their future. Everything from college applications to their very first job. Right. And the story doesn't just stop with you and your child. This decision to share actually ripples outward, and it can affect the entire family dynamic in ways we might not even see coming. I mean, this is a classic example. What one parent sees as an adorable moment that has to be shared, the other might see as a really private, intimate memory. This difference in what you're comfortable with can become a real source of tension between partners.
And that friction can spread to your whole family. Just think about it for a second. You've got the brother-in-law who hates having his picture taken, the cousin who feels really uncomfortable being posted online, or even that quiet, unspoken competition that can brew with other parents. It can turn a tool for connection into a major source of stress. Okay, so after all of that, what do we do? Look, the solution isn't to just unplug and go hide in a cabin. It's about shifting our mindset from mindless sharing to mindful sharing. It's about building a digital legacy with purpose, with intention, and with care. Here is a brilliant, super simple framework. Before you hit that post button, just pause, just for a second, and ask yourself these 3 questions. Why am I really posting this? For their memory book, for my own ego, or for an audience of strangers? How might their future self feel about this? And honestly, who really needs to see this? And here are some practical tools you can use like right now. First, limit your audience. Make those profiles private. Second, bring it offline. Create a real scrapbook. Third, and this one is so important as your kids get older, ask for their permission. Involve them in the decision. And finally, remember that it's okay, in fact, it's beautiful, to keep some of the best memories just for your family. Ultimately, this is the main takeaway. This pressure we feel to document and broadcast every single thing, it's a totally modern invention. The most profound, meaningful, and cherished memories often don't need an audience at all. They just need to be lived. So, I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. As parents, we're the first authors of our children's digital story. So let's just make sure it's one they'll be proud to read one day.